السلام عليكم، كيف حالكم؟ مرحبا بكم جميعا. Thank you everyone for joining. Today's session inshallah will be presented by Dr. Hatem. Uh, he will continue his education series on transplant immunology. And once again, it's my great pleasure to introduce you to Dr. Hatem for the second time. And as I mentioned previously, Dr. Hatem is one of the recognized authority in the field of cord blood banking and regenerative medicine. He has made significant contributions to this field. He contributed to advancement of stem cell transplantation and quality standards. He's a passionate educator and a leader with more than 20 years of experience in this field. Now he serves as director of cord blood banking at United Arab Emirates, where he continues to shape and lead advancement in regenerative medicine through his expertise, vision, and education. So now I would like to hand over to Dr. Hatem. So ممكن تتفضل now. The mic is yours.
واضح. شايفين المشكلة.
أيوة واضح دكتور حاتم.
السلام عليكم. السلام عليكم.
سامعينك دكتور حاتم.
حضرتك بس الصوت واضح والمجال. ممكن الواحد يقول لي الصوت واضح؟ ليش؟
السلام عليكم دكتور.
ايوه، اتفضلي. فاطمة، الصوت واضح كده؟
الصوت واضح بس شوية بعيد، لو قربت المايك it will be perfect.
أنا أعتقد لا، أنا ما قادر أعمل كونكشن كويس. إذا ممكن
اوكي.
يكون الصوت أوضح.
ايوه كده it's better.
طيب، شكرا.
can go ahead.
شكرا جزيلا. أولا استضفتني للمرة الثانية عشان نتكلم اتش ال اي دول اتش ال اي terminology. Last time we talked about the HLA tag, which is to do typing. And the most important things after you are getting the typing, you need to do matching or antibody testing. So as you can see that the transplant will succeed. Because the typing itself will not be successful. And you will not follow up the transplant unless testing will be testing. Testing, okay, not all antibody testing started. Because technology you are using is matching to detection of different types of antibodies. And talk about this today. We're trying to go through this procedure. Okay, there is a scenario. I would like to imagine that for new for the next few minutes, you are no longer attending election. Instead, you are now a member of the hospital transplant selection committee. Was in transplant hospital committee, and on 2 a.m. morning, you got a call. The later call you to inform you that deceased donor kidney has become available. Also, this lady, she's waiting. So the coordinator will follow up with that transplant for donor organs distributors. And at that 2 a.m. morning, and unfortunately, this is what is happening to the HLN administrative deceased donor program. We got a call. Patient who has been waiting for transplant for a couple of years is finally receiving what could be a life-changing treatment. The patient is 42 years old, woman with end-stage renal disease. She has a history of sensitization, making her transplant journey challenging. She's sensitized, and we are going to explain this is exactly how it's happening. Okay, and this is making her journey for finding a donor is very difficult. We don't think it hard to get a transplant because of this sensitization. And the donor HLA typing technique, step one. So that's why they send the report to you. They send you, okay, now finally you got a match. So prepare your patient for the transplant. Everything is fine. Donor is okay. The patient ready. And actually she's still 5 years. Then and time is critical because every hour of a delayed increase the what is called scheme. Patient they want to retrieve the kidney from the transplant, each donor. So you need to you take your decision whether you're going for transplant or not. You can have the data provided to you. So every hour is very, very important. Everything CM promising. Everyone is happy until the HLA reports from donor specific. The virtual cross-match is predicted to be so there is this and virtual matching is good. Now the responsibility is shifting. Responsibility now is becoming in the HLA. One who will take this decision. Would you proceed in this transplantation knowing there is an increased risk of complicating infection? There is a high DSA, matching, virtual cross-matching is possible. Okay, you will proceed with this transplant. Would you recommend it desensitization? And don't forget the point, don't forget she's the situation. Would you decline this organ and continue waiting for another donor? If he's waiting, it's very, very, very stressful situation. but you don't simply to reject it to them, okay, they cannot receive this. Because communication is
السلام عليكم دكتور معلش.
رئاسي.
تسلم ان شاء الله. لو ممكن تعمل سويتش من البريزنتر مود هنا للبرزنتيشن، لانه شايفين احنا بريزنتر مود.
اوكي.
انا قلت بس لو مشيت فوق للديسبلاي سيتنجز، فوق في الديسبلاي سيتنجز اظن الاقي ممكن يمكن سويتش. ايوه سواب.
now swap. اوكي.
في زي لاج كده ماشي، لسه ما اتغير، الشاشه ما اتغير. اظن الاقي ما ممكن تعمل سواب، يمكن معناه الا تعمل دوبليكيت. حتى الدوبليكيت ما معناه الا تعمل هايدنج هنا للبريزنتر فيو. ايوه كده تمام، كده ده فول سكرين
كده. اوكي.
تمام. تسلم.
طيب. اوكي. طيب. Okay. Now the situation is this patient is highly sensitivized and is high DSA. So what is decisions are supposed to do, and what we supposed to run this case? Do we want to proceed or not to proceed? This is will be by the end of this presentation. So the question is, should the transplant proceed? Is this sensitization fair? Should another donor be selected? And how should the HLA laboratory guide the decision? So this is the role of the HLA. This is what we are talking about. The role of this investigator laboratory is HLA type, body screen, cross matching, DSA interpretation, and clinical consultation and quality assurance. So all this together is the HLA laboratory. HLA laboratory groups. It's not about getting the sample, reporting the result. It's about the transplant. So imagine that the tube you are getting, it's a transplant. It's a transplant decision. Where you transplant, this decision is being taken, and this is a life-threatening decision. So it's clearly from any scenario you have in the laboratory, it's look like you need to decide the decision with a lot of time, not about what you have exactly and what you want to do. So let us see, before we are talking about the HLA antibodies and all these things, we know the innate immunity and adaptive immunity. This is the complementary arms of the human immunity. So innate immunity, as we know, is immediate response, non-specific recognition, non-classic immunological memory. That means it's reacting directly and with no memories and with simple reaction using big natural killer cells, neutrophils, and complementary reactions. All this and the normal barriers, of course, this is innate immunity. But in the other side, the adaptive immunity, where is inspecific. And this is actually where our HLA lie on and how our HLA is respond to the any foreign body or foreign HLA to create that activity. Here, the antigen specific response either to T cells and the B cell, and this is generate immunological memory, which is end up by a mark or reaction to the reaction. So these are responsible for most of the mechanism by that HLA antibody shall be there. So to just understand that antibodies still examine immune memory created by the exposure to HLA. Now, when we go into detect HLA, actually we are detecting immune response. That means our role is not just detection, but we are detecting the immune response to these actions, which is affecting our survival or the validity of the organ which is going to be transplanted. On the other side, the cellular immunity and the humoral immunity, these two arms of adaptive immunity and contribute directly in the injury. So the cellular immunity, the cells which work in CD4, CD4 and CD8 T cells, recognize antigen through the T cell receptor, drives immune cell injection, and this is important, especially in the graft-versus disease after that transplant. This cellular rejection. The humoral immunity, the main cells, B cells, and the plasma cells, which is actually cascading from the reaction, produces antibodies, can generate donor-specific antibody central to antibody-mediated rejection. The MR most rejection is rejection. So in this case, the HLA antibody testing evaluates the humoral immune risk before and after rejection. That's why we are doing post-marching before the transplantation, and we are keeping doing BRS after the transplantation so as to make sure there is no rejection or rejection started already, which is need more clinical experience. So this is the why you are doing antibody. So why antibody or HLA antibody testing method? The result can change the informed decision is what we say. Because when you have the HLA antibodies, either before or after, at that time you have to have a decision, and this decision always is taken by the committee, which is, by the way, the transplant committee should include a lot of members, starting from the lab members, the physicians, the nephrologists, that even the dietitians, and all these people are in that transplant committee who have decided that transplant will go ahead or not according to each field. So the decision of transplant, accepting the transplant, accepting the rejecting the transplant, is the committee, always the committee decision is not one nation. So recipient B cells, we recognize the HLA antibody when through the donor epithelium. Then the epithelium it's the tissue of the patient with the kidney organ. If the cross-matching is positive, this antibody mediation delay the patient and reduce the graft survival or end the graft survival. So we are doing HLA testing. So it is compatible border, support variation cross-match. After transplant, assess immediate risk, diet clinical discussion. This is when we at the transplant or prepare the transplant when they prepare the transplant. After the transplant, we are monitoring the level of DSA or donor specific antibody to support AMR investigation in case AMR happen, and long-term risk investigation, graft survival planning, and all this according to the HLA labs. And this is what the HLA lab doing to do the life of the patient. HLA antibody are formed, we say, the HLA exposure, antigen presentation, antigen present itself to the T cell server, and then the B cell activation, so it by plasma memory, and HLA antibody is formed. Then another exposure will be more It's called progressive exposure. The memory B cell explain why antibody can appear rapidly after the exposure. So whenever you have antibody already in your blood or in your system, whenever you get the same again, it will be direct rejection, acute rejection, hyper rejection, chronic rejection according to the type of the exposure and the episode which is happening. So the major causes of sensitization and this is where the idea is coming. The pregnancy, exposure of fetal maternal HLA antigen common causes of inflammation in women important in transplant history. And this is very important when you do any you, you want to know the history of exposure. If there is a blood transfusion, exposure to donor leukocyte reduced by leukoproduction but not eliminated. May increase antibody or may increase antibody toxicity. So the blood transfusion is one of the main cause of the HLA antibodies. Religious transplant, of course, with strong immunizing event can create resistance immune response, high relevance to the transplantation. And this is one main issue that why we need to come to the beginning with HLA tithing model and very sensitive, very precise cross matching methodology or infection methodology to avoid any possibility to reconciliation because the time the patient start having antibodies to having high antibodies is minimize his his opportunity or opportunity to get any important in the same series. So the meaningful antibody report requires the to know the patient's institution. Example, as we said, pregnancy, the mother will be sensitized against our kids. So it's difficult or very contraindicated to have the kids to mother because she's already sensitized against them. That means you need to do detection for possibility. So there is some terminology we are talking about. PRA. PRA, which is a binary reactive antibody, which indicates the probability of positive percentage on a pool that is predicted to be a positive. So the PRA or the binary reactive antibody, when you do, you have a donor, serum the donor, you react it with a pool, antigens pool of patients or pool of donors, you are isolating their cells, then you pull it with the one hand. And by the end of the day, it's something like it will give the physician or the clinician the probability of that patient will get a donor from this community. If you get a PRA 80%, that means this patient is 20% to get a donor from the community or from the population where you get to commit this pool of antigens. Correct? Or the cross-reacting epitope group. This is indicate a public epitope shared by several HLA antigen antibody. Again, the correct will make the entire correct family unacceptable. Correct group, that means any group that has own epitopes, which is called private epitopes, and it has shared epitope. So some HLAs, they have epitope, private epitope and public epitope. This public epitope is shared with another HLA antigen. So that means if two, for example, two HLA antigens or three or four or six or whatever having or share the same public epitope, that means they will be considered unacceptable as unacceptable mismatch, unacceptable match, because they will have antibody the same antibody, and then the patient will treat them as one. So if the patient has B7, B7 has shared the epitope with B37, that means if you bring the donor to have B7, be not accepted, will be positive for matching. In the same, like B37, it will be again positive for each. KSA, donor
دكتور
specific
فاتن
antibody.
سوري فور
أيوه.
انتربشن في
نعم.
ناس بس بتتكلم إنه صوتنا واضح في الشات فممكن بس تعلي الصوت حبة.
Okay. Donor specific antibody. Some tests done as interpretation include a statement as whether the antibody detect or direct against the donor. Donor specific. That means if you see the first definition, let us say BRA or reactive antibody, that means there is a reaction with this, but is not specific to the donor. When you do cross matching, and you will find that the donor, for example, is having A2, and the patient his antibodies against A2, which is reacting positively. This is, we call it DSA, donor specific antibody. That means this patient, he has antibody against specific donor or specific allele or specific HLA. And this is specifically, it will go further if you, for example, this is a serological specifically, if you go to the epitope, it will be completely different and so on. So it's very specific. So when we say donor specific antibody, that means this patient has specific antibody against the donor which who have this kind of condition. So how this is generated, how this is donor specific antibody generated. Now we have, let us the kidney. The kidney, let us very simple typing. The kidney is having A1, A2, B7, and B8. And the patient, he has A1, in this case A24, B8, and B8. Okay? So it's not like clearly if we ask what antibody will be developed here, if you do a simple match, A1 here and A1 here, 2 here, the patient doesn't have 2, that means he will have anti-2, and B7, the patient doesn't have B7, so it will not match him. So when he exposed, he will create antibody against. So in this case, he will create an antibody against A2, and he will create antibody against B7 because B8 is matching him, A1 is matching him. And this is supposed to happen. This is the result. This is the result of cross matching. But unfortunately, this is what is going to happen according to the cross-reactive group. So the patient will create donor-specific antibody against A2 and some all this group which is shared if we talk with A2, which is 58, 69, 68, 57, 3, B58. Okay, and B7, this is the correct group of B7, which is B27, 62, B61. So imagine when you do a cross matching, and because you did not do it proper way, or the patient getting the transplant, which is not fully matched transplant, if the rejection happen, and of course it will happen sooner or later, they will create antibody against all this HLA. And this is, it will minimize his ability to get another one. Why we say good typing and interpretation from the beginning, it will save the patient in all means. The donor-specific antibody are recipient antibody direct against HLA antigen expressed by intended donor. The recipient serum with the antibody in the donor HLA, immediate risk, positive cross-matching, hyperacute rejection, and this should not be ignored. This is when the cross-matching coming positive, you have to not be ignored and you not go to the one because this it will be hyperacute rejection and long-term risk to the mediated rejection, chronic injury, and graft loss. And this is happening if the donor antibody was very, very low titer. And you are not, by the way, whenever you say very low titer, sometimes you cannot be detected in the human body. Because you are doing it by the end of the day, either to machine or to trace, but by the end of the day, especially the DSAs. So from DSA to antibody-mediated rejection, this is exactly what is happening. DSA binding to the donor HLA, it will be activated, endothelial injury, inflammation, and graft dysfunction. And this is what will happen in the donor vascular endothelium. And the laboratory clues, DSA detection, positive cross-matching or virtual cross-matching, complement binding test in selected case. Because sometimes you have a DSA which is not complement binding. So we have another test which is now we will start doing it, which is called CMPU. This is complement test and sensitivity. Because sometimes you need to investigate more to see if the patient or if this antibodies is complement fixing or not, because the complement fixing is the most important things in the transplantation. Okay, the detection of the antibodies starting from Karasaki in 1969, where they introduced the CDC, and this is the cytotoxicity or cytotoxic antibody cell death, where they're doing CDC, which is complement dependent cytotoxicity. And this is actually the main idea is about complement fixing cytotoxic antibody. If they are in complement fixing, this is what CDC exactly. So this is the CDC recipe. In 1980, ELISA introduced, and in the ELISA, they want to avoid using viable cells, because to have a viable cells, it's a little bit difficult. You need to isolate cells, and this is you need to do it in certain time. You need to do this, but in ELISA you can use serum with the coated in, and this is make it more easy and more sensitive. Then 1990, the flow cytometry was introduced, and the flow cytometry mainly is introduced to enhance the sensitivity of the test, because CDC is low sensitivity and need more timing. In 2000, Luminex came, and the Luminex is the bead assay, okay, which is we talked about it last time in the HLA, the same idea, but here instead of leading protoids, we are connecting the beads, or the beads will be emulsify in beads, and yeah. So in the CDC cross-matching, we test the recipient for HLA antibody. The sample of serum is mixed with the sample of the potential donor cells. So here the recipient serum, which is represent the immune system, and the patient cells, which is represent the kidney or the donor tissue. Then you will incubate the serum with donor lymphocytes. Then after some time you add the treatment. Then if the complement fixing the cells, it will be the cells, it will be the cell wall will be attacked. Then whenever you add the dye, either you are using leucine dye or chrome, according to the methodology you are using, then you will visualize it under the microscope, and you are reading the cell death. And this is one of the disadvantages of the CDC cross-matching, because here you are reading cell death, and that means you need clean cells, you need on time, you need a lot of technology, techniques, actually technology. And this is one, and you are checking it by your eyes, so it's subjective test, because the readings it varies from 2, which is considered as negative, or in between 6 starting to be positive and 8 positive. So some people they will read 4 and 6, and this is always gray area. 4 is going to be where the negative, and 6 is where the positive, where this need more testing. Secondly, it's depends on the complement. So only complement fixing it will read, and complement fixing antibodies it will not be read. Secondly, IgA it interfere with the result. So you need to treat the patient the serum with editor or just want to treat it, the serum or IgA. So this is the problem of the CDC cross-match, the sensitivity and the specificity. ELISA, they use the ELISA for detection of VR. It was estimation in question of potential organ donor against two transplant candidate has performed HLA antibodies. It's a pool of one, pool of donors. It reflects the degree of HLA sensitization, usually resulting from pregnancy, blood transfusion, or previous transplantation. A higher PRA indicate greater sensitization, make it more difficult to find a compatible donor and increasing the risk of antibody-mediated rejection. So this is with the patient having antibodies, and specifically if your donor you know is typing the same like what for the specific ELISA. There is one test of the ELISA is called LAT. LAT test, and then I think another one is LATM. LATM is just screening. LAT they train to make it more specific, but it's still specific. Flow cytometry cross-matching, flow cytometry cross-matching, side cross-matching is a standard technique for evaluating the compatibility of potential kidney transplant recipient and donors. You are mixing, and the recipient serum is incubated with the donor lymphocyte, the same principle, and the latter are analyzed in the flow cytometer for the presence of found IgG antibody. Then you will add IgG antibody, which is able and increasing the level of IgG binding compared to negative control indicate the presence of donor-specific antibody, which may lead to deleterious graft function. So by the end of the day, you are reading the flow cytometry against your negative control, and the amount of collection you are reading in the flow cytometry, it will give you the shift. It will give you the reading of the positive. The advantage of the flow cytometry, you can do the T and T P self cross-matching in the same view. So, and that then after that, because you are using certain marker for CD3 and E, you have the IgG. In the CDC cross-matching, you need to do B matching alone and T cross-matching alone, because you are isolating B alone and T alone, and you are running both of them. And by the way, in the CDC cross-matching, I just forget to tell you, we are running what's called autologous transplant. And for the autologous cross-matching, when we run the cross-matching, we run the donor cross-matching, where the patient serum and the cells of the donors. When we run the auto cross-matching, we are running the patient serum with his own cells to figure out if there is any auto reaction. It might give us a false positive in the donor reaction. So we are expecting it to have it. The Luminix, which is coming and change the whole game. Luminix is a solid phase assay that use color-coded HLA antigen, coded microsphere, detective anti-HLA antibody. So we are using it for HLA typing, and we are using it for HLA antibody in the same, almost the same principle. Found antibodies are identified using a fluorescein anti-human IgG conjugate, while dual laser technology simultaneously identify speed and measure fluorescein intensity, MFI, allowing high sensitive detection of HLA antibodies specifically in a single test. That means there is a beads. This beads, it will be soup, or it will be combined or connected with certain antigen. Then when you incubate it with the serum and with the adding of reporter, which is one of the fluorescein dye, then this if the antibody and antigen match to each other, they will react and it will be captured. Then when it will be captured, when it's read like the same like what is happening to also the reading tube would read that they have a dual laser, green laser and red laser. One will detect the bead. Each bead it will, if in case of single beads, that means each bead have one antigen, or if multiple tests like screening, it will be the bead has so many antigen on its cells. It depends on the kits you are using, single antigen kits or multiple. So the laser will identify it and it will detect it in the skin, and then it will be interpreted by you according to the MFI. MFI, this is the main fluorescence intensity, which is give you at the end of the day, the MFI, we want to know that the MFI, it will not reflect the space of the body, it's giving you estimation of or people. So the limitation of solid phase field for HLA antibody analysis, it uses manufactured HLA molecule. As we said, it's the nature antigen, not real antigen. Exposed linear sequence may not react the same as cell HLA. This is one of the disadvantages. Density of antigen on a beads may vary with different antigen, different blocks, and different vendors. Luminex is the company, but there's so many companies or so many vendors using the main machine where they manufacture their kits. They have different lots, different manufacturer. So the density of each antigen, it might not give you an accurate result because different manufacturer. Density on bead may not correlate with the density on cells. Multiple antibody specificity may affect fluorescence. Fluorescence affected by number of beads sharing at the top. 2 or 3 beads sharing at the top. This is you could make most in the gene density varies in different organs will affect outcome or clinical significance. So what the clinical significance couple, this is another issue, and this is need a lot of study to see the clinical the value of each community, of each ethnicity, and each disease, and each organ as well. In an HLA antibody, it could block and give you a false positive, or no antibody, no MFI, where it could give you false negative, and this is if it reaction happens then HLA antibody. So this is the sensitivity of the detection methodology which you are using till now. If you see the DSA, which is Luminex single antigens, this is the most sensitive one, giving us green. So very low antibody can be detected. Most cytometry less than it, better than the others. ELISA is sensitive more than the CDC. So the CDC with anti-human globulin, this is enhanced methodology of CDC, and the CDC, which is normal CDC, it's the most sensitive one because it's need high antibody to be detected by the CDC. So imagine if you do a cross-matching for a patient with no antibody titer, and you did not select the best method to do the detection of PSA, and you went to the transplant, you might get uh, failure of the transplant, and this is not due because this is simply due to the selection of the methodology. So the CDC will not give you anything in this case. So the recommendation to do PSA with the Luminex so as to avoid one of the most important problems happening always in the plant, which is the rejection, because all the role of the HLA is to extend or to expand the lifespan of the organ. Okay, to expand the lifespan of the organ, it's a complete action together, selection of methodologies in a matter of Pre-transplant, selection of methodologies when you are monitoring it, selection of immunosuppressive or whatever you are using. So all this together it will help in expanding the life of the organ. Otherwise, you will lose the organ because of inadequate virtual cross-matching. Virtual cross-matching from its name, the cross-matching, as we say, CTC cross-matching, the patient serum, and the donor cells. But in case of the what is called disease donor, or when we need a very urgent result, the cross-matching will be very helpful. Simply, the virtual cross-matching is when you are doing donor-specific antibody testing, or when you are doing DRA testing. Okay, by Luminex, you are doing it with single antigen beads, then you will get, if the patient has any antibodies with its MFI, then you will, the time you are getting the donor antibody, the donor antigens or the HLA of the donor, you will compare the two results together. So if the patient has any antibodies, and this antibody with high or clinically significant, then the patient, the donor has antigens. This is the one matching, and this donor will be eliminated, or from the list, or it will be deleted from the case. So the virtual correspond, it will clinicians to decide what time or accepting or rejecting, and it will help in distributing of the organs in case this is donor. So very important. And now it's becoming most of the laboratory using it, but this will not cover the need of the clinical transformation and the clinical judgment or the clinical notification of the case. So some people now they do loss isolation matching, and at the same time they do virtual matching to take the decision and guide the decision. So this is the whatever we said about the cross matching, CBC cross matching, as we said, DSA, no DSA. No DSA, that means negative, and this is the CBC cross matching. No scientific cross matching, again, finding negative cross matching. The main cells below the threshold, that one is above threshold, and this is when you compare your readings. The virtual cross matching recipient serum plus HLA code speed solid phase testing, which is Luminex, then it will give us the result, and we compare it with the donor profile, which is always, this is distributed by the organ distributing agencies or hospitals or whoever taking care of these organizations. They will distribute the donors HLA, and we will in your matching tool accept or reject the donor. The MFI, when you go and read exactly this Luminex, this is how the Luminex giving you the result. And this is just to mention the MFI. So this is according, this cut of values being done according to each region and each kids and each organs donation. So 8 point greater than 8,500 MFI is called high risk, moderate risk up to 8,500, low risk 1,100 and 2,000, and very weak antibodies it's 500 to 99. But MFI is a semi-quantitative measure. Antibody binding strength. It's not a direct measure of quantification, or should be always interpreted alongside antibody specificity. So the antibody specificity here is very important, and complement binding assay like C1Q, as we said, or C3D, and this is now becoming available, and this is complement binding assays, and patient sensitization history and the clinical things about the whole case, where you need to know exactly, okay, if it's high risk or moderate risk, low risk, or very weak. Okay, yes, no, you need to go through this. According to what we said, let us say 35 years old male, within end-stage renal disease is scheduled for spares treatment. And this is actually what is happening in Sudan always. Male and brother. So the history, no previous transplant, said here, no blood transfusion, no pregnancy reports, no non-sensitization even. So this is a very safe transplant. The test PRA is 0, that means negative. ASA Luminex negative. CDC cross-matching is negative. Low cross-matching is negative, and there is no cross-matching is negative. So would we proceed with this transplantation or not? This is the question. Discussion. In case no immunological risk, of course, all the immunological risk here is not there. No evidence of any sensitization, no donor specific antibody. All cross-match tests are negative, so the decision proceed with the transplantation. It's very safe transplant. All the data we need is there, and the decision will come from the HLA laboratory to recommend going for the transplant, and the transplant committee with the physicians, surgeons, and then from this should decide to go for this transplant without any risk. But here, a 42 years old female with end-stage renal disease, the history, 2 pregnancies, that means one of sensitization agent is there, 3 blood transfusion, another one, and first transplant. This is her first transplant. Okay, so there is risk. ERA is coming 65%. Our donor specific antibody against DQ7. This MFI 2300. 2300 is low risk, yeah, according to what we see, or medium risk. Then CDC cross-matching is negative. Low cross-matching is coming positive, and virtual cross-matching is coming positive. Now, would you proceed with this transplant? What in your mind, as you said, there is 2 pregnancies, and there is 3 blood transfusion and first transplant. The donor-specific antibody is DQ7. Okay? So even its first transplant, from where the DQ7 course is coming either from the blood transfusion or from the 2 pregnancies, which, and the MFI is 2300, little bit. But the strange things here, CDC cross-matching is negative and the flow cross-matching is positive. So why? Before we are deciding this, as I told you, we are not just doing tests, not just reading the result, and we have to think about it. So why CDC is negative while the flow is positive? Is DQ antibody clinically significant or not? Would you request another donor? What is the desensitization be considered? This is the question you should ask yourself whenever you are working in the HLA laboratory, and to decide and to help the clinician taking the decision about this. So, low-level class 2 DSA may not activate completely. The class 2 DSA is low-level 2300 that may not activate positive CD3 cross-matching. That's why the CDC is negative, and that's why the CDC always is not the good method to follow because of the sensitivity. Now, look, the cross-matching is giving you a positive. Yes, the cross-matching giving you a positive, but CDC giving you negative. Imagine if you do the transplant with the CDC result. Look, for this case, for any case, it could be more harm, okay, and this will be a direct rejection. So the flow cytometry, because it's a sensitive method, and the luminex are sensitive methods, that's why they detect. Now the decision should consider antibody strength, clinical urgency, and the transplant center protocols. This is what's supposed to be decided. Transplant center protocols, every transplant center, they have their own protocols and they have their own decision according to the case. If clinically relevant or not, or clinically urgent or not. They will decide and they will go for some transplant. They will go with this antibodies, and some transplant the center they will not go according to their opinion of creating of the patients. Other case, 5 years old male with previous kidney transplant, rejected previous transplant, multiple growth as a fusion, waiting for deceased donor transplant. This patient waiting for disease, and this is reflect his calculated PRA, it was 98%. That means the possibility to get the transplant is 2% only. CSA A2, MFI 12,005, and anti-DR7 with MFI 9,400, anti-DQ2 with MFI 15,300. Okay, is CDC cross-matching be positive, cross-matching is strongly positive, and virtual cross-matching is positive. This is a recommendation to the transplant because this, if you see the anti-A2 itself, it will give you a large number of great group. So, unlikely, that's why it's 98% unlikely to get easy. So, risk of immunological risk is extremely high. Specific antibody. Positive CDC indicate complement fixing antibody. Very high likely hyperacute or early antibody mediated rejection, and this is what expected. So the decision will come or not to receive with this transplantation. Alternative strategies, wait for another donor, which is again is very difficult. Consider this sensitization if clinically appropriate. So this is the decision of the clinical team. So is this sensitization, it will work in this case or not? Reassess antibody profile periodically. Having that this antibody will go little bit low, then whenever it will go low, it will give him more window to more doors. Coming to the case where we start with the first case. The first case, the decision is not an easy as we said. And you need to assess the patient immunological risk first. The patient has a history of socialization and has been waiting for 5 years. Immediately, we recognize that she is not a low risk plant. She is not low risk because, first of all, she's 5 years and she's sensitized and she couldn't find the donor for 5 years. So this is not a low risk plant at all. Then we need to evaluate the antibody find. The laboratory detects strong donor specific antibody, and the virtual cross-matching is positive. This tells us that the recipient already has antibodies directed against the donor HLA protein. Okay, because we see the result. This is not just a laboratory result, it's a warning that the immune system has already been primed to recognize the donor card. So, and all this because of our sensitization. So before making a recommendation, you ask several important questions. What is the MFI of the DSA, which is in the report is not coming? Is it class 1 or class 2? It's a complement binding or not? What are the CDC and flow cross-matching results? Because what we have is a virtual cross-matching. And is this only available donor or there is another offer might happen? How urgent is the patient clinical condition? When you answer to all these 6 questions with the team and with the clinical team, you can find how to recommend this transplant. But always you are not going to decide because it's not like an easy case, but this is a very, very difficult case to decide. If the DSA is strong, the virtual cross-matching is positive, and the CDC cross-matching is also positive, I would advise against proceeding with because the risk of hyperacute antibody-mediated usage is unacceptable high. If the CDC negative, but the flow cross matching is positive, with a moderate strength plus 2 DSA, the decision becomes around the patient condition, donor availability, and the transplant center. Transplantation may still be considered with enhanced immunosuppression, desensitization, and close post-transplant monitoring. This is what, what we can decide about this case, because as I told you, the, the, the deceased donor waiting list, they will send you directly the virtual cross matching. But in case of cases like this, you need to have a physical cross matching or a real cross matching, which is CDC and flow cross matching, where you can assess exactly the, the case. Albert Einstein once said, the more I learn, the more I realize how much I know. Quantum immunology reminds us it is very evident. We discussed today present only the visibility of an enormous iceberg. Beneath the surface lies a wealth of discovery, innovation, and unanswered questions. Our responsibility as a scientist and healthcare provider is to keep exploring that hidden path, not only to expand our knowledge, but more importantly, to improve the lives of the patient who placed there with us. Thank you for your attention, your curiosity, and your commitment to advancing plant medicine. And thank you, and sorry for what is happening in this. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hatem, for this great presentation and for taking us through this valuable knowledge on transplant immunology. By now, we open the floor for questions. You can unmute yourself or drop your questions in the chat box.
Then, focus. President Rafael.
شكله معتز لا يشبع
Okay.
انا عندي
عندي
شبع
شكرا
Then you are mute.
طيب في سؤال في الشات بوكس من دكتور محمد حسين كاتب traditional CDC complement dependent cytotoxicity cross matching takes hours. In modern practice, how does the virtual cross matching using single antigen beats via flow cytometry allow for faster organ allocation, and what are its potential limitations compared to the physical test?
كده سامعين المشكلة؟ طب محمد السايتوتوكسيسيتي CDC is taking I think approximately 1.5 hours, which is and low sensitivity as you said. But the virtual cross matching is it's a single antigen beats which will take around 1 hour, 120 minutes. Remember, this is will give you the result of the patient antibody. Then the donor is a deceased donor. That means already is in the donation program or his HLA already done. Okay, so we will just compare it, and it will not take from you as expert. It will not take from you more than 5 to 10 minutes to decide this is positive cross matching or not, positive virtual or not. And if you want to more analysis, that means it will take time. If there is a lot of analysis, you need to see the image. It might take time. But if there is virtual cross matching, it's a very, very fast method to this organ allocation. And this kind is being done by Luminix. We are doing it by Luminix. Even the flow cytometry cross matching is taking sometimes 36 minutes. And the flow cytometry cross matching is a physical cross matching, it's not a virtual. For the virtual cross matching, we are using SAP in Luminix, which is Luminix by definition, it's a cytometry, but it's not flow cytometry. This is about the question. I hope I answered your question. What about, there is another question from Isra. What about research in such field because of the small sample size and high cost of conducting such a study? We don't know exactly what research we're talking about, if it's antibody testing or HIV, whatever the cost. Of course, the cost is a little bit high, not but it's not like high before. Now I know a lot of technology now becoming very, very, very cheap technology. The problem is the infrastructure of this technology. But I believe even if you are talking from Sudan there is Dominic's two machine making. It's a matter of collaboration. But yeah, any research has its cost. It depends on how to do the research itself. If you tell me exactly what you want to do, we can help you.
So there is no questions. Thank you everyone for attending, and thank you again Dr. Hatem for this great knowledge, and see you in next webinar inshallah.
Thank you.